Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to break down how small companies can punch way above their weight to win the battle for top talent. And here's the secret, it's not by outspending the giants, it's by outmaneuvering them.
So, let's just start with a question that probably keeps a lot of you founders and managers up at night, right? You find an amazing person, you get them up to speed, they become absolutely essential, and then, boom, a big corporation with a fatter checkbook comes knocking. It's a super frustrating cycle, but what if I told you there's a way to break it?
Okay, before we get to the how, let's get real about the stakes. The cost of replacing one of your key employees isn't just their salary. No, it's actually 1.5 to 2 times that salary when you factor in all the recruiting, the onboarding, and that painful dip in productivity. It's a massive, massive financial hit.
And it gets even crazier than that. You know, the best people, those top performers you're trying so hard to keep, they can drive up to 400% more revenue than an average employee. So losing them doesn't just cost you money, it literally costs you growth.
So here's the big insight for today. Trying to match corporate salaries and those fancy perks, it's a losing battle. You can't win their game. The real solution is to change the game entirely by using 3 powerful, I'd even say unfair advantages that only a small, agile company like yours can offer.
All right, let's dive into the first one, the power of direct, visible impact. You know, in a giant corporation, an employee's best work can feel like just a single drop in a massive ocean. But in your company, that same work can be the entire wave.
And what this creates is something called identity loyalty. Now, this isn't just about company swag or some rah-rah pride. It's when an employee's personal sense of who they are and what they've accomplished gets directly wired to the company's success. Their wins are the company's wins, and they can actually see it, feel it, every single day.
So how do you actually do this? Well, first, you give people true end-to-end ownership of their projects. Don't just give them a task. Then, you pull them into the room for the big decisions, so they're part of the why, not just the what. And maybe most importantly, you have to connect the dots for them. Show them exactly how their work, that line of code they wrote, that design they mocked up, directly led to a huge company win.
Because ultimately, that feeling of real ownership creates a powerful emotional anchor. It stops being just a job, and it becomes their project, their product, their success story. And let me tell you, that is incredibly hard for someone to just walk away from.
Now for your second advantage, which builds right on top of the first one. Leveraging radical trust as your secret weapon. This is truly where your smaller size becomes your greatest strength.
I mean, just think about the difference here. Big corporations are often just strangled by rigid HR policies, layers of approvals, and this old-school obsession with FaceTime. But a smaller team can offer true agility. You can stop policing hours and focus only on outcomes. And that allows for a level of life-work integration that big companies can only put on a marketing poster. And this deep level of trust and autonomy, it actually becomes a kind of golden handcuff. An employee might get an offer with a 10% raise, but then they stop and think, wait, I'd be trading away the freedom to pick my kids up from school whenever I want, or to work from another city for a month. And so often, that trade just isn't worth it. And hey, this isn't just a gut feeling. The data is crystal clear. Well over half of employees now prioritize these non-salary benefits, like real flexibility and work-life balance. You are perfectly positioned to offer exactly what the modern workforce is crying out for. Okay, on to your third and final advantage, turning your company into a personal and professional growth accelerator. Your best people, they are terrified of stagnating. You can offer them a living, breathing playground for their development. So forget the slow, predictable corporate ladder. You can offer what's called lattice growth. What does that mean? It means if your marketing specialist is kind of curious about data science, you can actually empower them to learn it and then immediately apply those brand new skills to your business. Their growth becomes your growth. It's that simple.
The practical steps here are pretty straightforward. It's about offering a budget for courses, always trying to promote from within, and this one is huge, giving people what we call the CEO's ear. That direct access to leadership is a massive perk that just doesn't exist in a 50,000-person company. It shows them their mind is valued, not just their hands.
So, these 3 advantages, impact, trust, and growth, they are incredibly powerful, but they are completely useless if they aren't built on a solid, totally non-negotiable foundation.
Let's just be absolutely clear on this. No amount of interesting work, no amount of flexibility or growth can ever make up for a toxic environment or for being seriously underpaid. You have to get the basics right, period.
I mean, just take a look at Zoho. They are absolute masters of retention. And why is that? Well, they prioritize promoting from within, they focus on sustainable growth instead of hype, and they build a stable, low-pressure culture, all while paying people fairly. The result? People stay for decades because they're genuinely respected.
Now, in stark contrast, look at Uber during its early, hyper-growth phase. Yeah, they had high compensation and super exciting work, but the toxic culture, the intense pressure, and the total lack of psychological safety led to a mass exodus of their best talent. It proves, without a doubt, that money alone is never, ever enough. So it really all comes down to a simple but really powerful equation. Retention isn't about one thing. It's a whole approach that balances growth, respect, and sustainability. You get this equation right, and you'll build a team that actually sticks around.
This brings us to a final, really actionable idea. I want you to stop waiting for the exit interview to find out what went wrong. It's too late then. Instead, be proactive. Start having stay conversations with your most valuable people right now.
And it's not complicated, really. Just ask them, what's really working for you here? Then ask, honestly, what might tempt you to leave? And finally, what would make this the place you want to build your career for the long term? These simple questions can give you all the insight you need to fix things before they become reasons to resign.
And we'll end on this final thought. Your ultimate goal here isn't just to keep people from leaving. It's to build a culture of impact, trust, and growth that's so compelling, so fulfilling, that if your absolute best employee got a huge, lucrative offer from a competitor tomorrow, they would genuinely have to stop and think about it. Your goal is to make that decision a really, really difficult one.